These three watches are a few of my favorites in my little collection, not only because I think they look really cool, but also because I think each of them represent a really good value at the price point that they are sold at. I love watches so much. I think they are the epitome of form and function married together, but also I recognize the fact that a lot of times watch culture can be a little bit elitist, a little bit unapproachable, and oftentimes seen as a very expensive hobby to get into. I'm not someone who has a very expensive collection of watches at all. Some of these are actually some of the more expensive watches that I own in the first place. But I just want to make this video and share my love of watches first and foremost, because that's something I want to talk about on this channel more. But also I want to just open up the idea that there are really great watches, well-made watches available at much lower price points than you might think there are. So each of these watches are all under $300 and they kind of fall into different brackets within that sub $300 category. And they each have a story behind them too. And I just want to share these three with y'all today. So let's start with maybe the most sentimental watch that I have, which is the legendary Timex Weekender. This thing is awesome. I purchased it back in 2014. It was the summer after my freshman year of college, and I had just gotten the most legitimate job I ever worked. It was an internship at a very reputable sales company in the area that I lived, and I was so excited about that. And after the first 2 weeks of being in the office, I realized that I wanted something to not only commemorate that job, but also to just make myself feel a little bit more put together in a workspace like that. So I did a little bit of research, and I really just wanted to get something that was not going to break the bank at all. And I landed on the Timex Weekender. And I think for most people, honestly, the wide majority of people, this is the watch to buy, especially if you don't want to spend a lot of money on a watch. You can still get these for, I think, $40 or $50. They have a lot of different colored watch faces that you can get. So if maybe like a white or cream dial is not your thing, there's blacks and olives and navies and a lot of different colors that you can find. And then you can also get really pretty much any strap color or fabric type or leather type that you could imagine, whether that's through Timex or through a third party. It's just a very easy way to get into watches. It's very customizable, and I think it's a really great way to express yourself in the form of a watch without really worrying about spending too much money on a timepiece. So Timex Weekender, not only is this one just such a personal piece for me, never part with it. But I think it is a really good value in the watch world, especially for those who are just trying to get their toes wet and begin maybe an interest in watches. But it's a great watch to have in the rotation. And if you didn't notice in the first few times that I held this up to the screen, you can tell I haven't worn it in quite a while because the battery is dead. It's been stuck at what looks like 443 for I don't even know how long. But yeah. This is my Timex Weekender. Absolutely love it. And I think for 40 or 50 bucks, you can't really beat the value and the timelessness of the Timex Weekender. Okay, moving into the next watch. This is, now I have to put an asterisk around this watch because this is technically under $300. It is the G-Shock, I believe DW6900 John Mayer edition. And I'm gonna get a better shot of it because you can't really appreciate how awesome this thing looks in this light right now. But this is kind of the combination of three things that I love all in one. This is a collaboration between G-Shock, John Mayer, and Hodinkee. And if you're not familiar, Hodinkee is a very popular watch publication. And this is a collector's item for me more than anything else. I believe at retail it was sold for $180. Over time, the price has fluctuated on the used market or pre-owned market, but you can still find it under $300, but a few of them kind of flirt with that $300 and above price point, a resale value. But I love this because I'm a big fan of G-Shock, actually. I feel like they're just such a classic brand in the watch world and they have such an iconic look to them. But for me, the sentimental value behind this one is just the fact that John Mayer is one of my favorite musicians. And also Casio, the company that makes G-Shock, also makes musical instruments. And so all the colorways were inspired by old Casio keyboards, which is so cool. There was a cream, which is this one, a black and a blue. just such an interesting idea and brings so many of the worlds that I love all together between music and watches and design. And I'm so smitten with this watch. I honestly, I rarely actually wear this one, but I love it very much just aesthetically, and the story behind it I think is just so cool. But the asterisk that I put behind this one is that obviously, because this is maybe a little bit rarer, a little bit fewer and further between, I do have my OG G-Shock from, oh my gosh, I think 2013. I think I've had this thing for 12 years now. You can see this was my like rugged beat 'em up outdoor moving, painting, carpentry, house project kind of watch. I'll try to get some detail shots of all the paint splatters on there. But I love this thing. I think you can still get these. I think the reference number is DW9052. So this specific one, back in 2012, I think I bought it online for like $40. I think you can still get them for around $70, $80, somewhere in that price range. But this is, I think, just an awesome watch for, like I just mentioned, like any adventures that you're going on, any house projects, anything where you just need a watch that you can beat up and not care about it. You just want to be able to tell the time as you're doing whatever tasks or things that you're up to. The G-Shock, really anything in the G-Shock line, I think would be more than adequate for that. But if anyone is interested in a watch that has more of a rugged look, or is more of a beat 'em up watch, or even just has a digital readout instead of a more analog readout like the Timex Weekender that you can see here, to each their own. I think there's totally space for both of these watches in someone's collection, because they serve two different purposes. And that's the fun part about watches, is that they have so many different design components behind them and intentions behind the way that they're designed, that they can be used for a wide variety of purposes and contexts. So love a good G-Shock. I think this is obviously a really great one to splatter paint on. But if you're able to find one of the John Mayer editions under $300, I would say absolutely do that too, because I'm just obsessed with this watch and wanted to share a little bit of the story behind it. But that's the kind of secondary watch within this collection here. So we've got Timex, we've got G-Shock, two pretty iconic brands in the world of watches, very big names, very well known, very well established. The third watch, and arguably the one that I wear the most these days, and also I'd say probably love the most in this little collection, honestly, is a watch from a much smaller brand than Timex and G-Shock called Vaer. Now, Vaer is a really interesting brand to me. They have a lot of timepieces across a wide variety of styles, most of them a little more on the rugged side. They all have a little bit of a dive or field watch inspiration behind them. And these all have such incredible build quality and fit and finish for the price point. The DS4 retails, I think, for around like $289, so really at the top end of that $300 price point that I had mentioned at the beginning of the video. And I think the really cool part about Vaer, well, there's a few cool parts. One, I think the value for a roughly $300 watch is just unbelievable. I mean, you have to feel it in your hand to really understand it. Like the quality, the weight, the way that the dial is finished, even just the bezel clicks on this guy. Oh my gosh, it's like so crispy and so new and so nice. It just feels like a much more expensive watch than it actually is. But the coolest part is that I actually bought this DS4 for less than retail. And I bought it directly through Vaer, because Vaer has a pre-owned program within their own brand. So on their website, you can shop versions of their watches that have been worn by customers and sent back in and traded in for, I think, like trade-in credit or a discount code for a future watch. But they have their own refurbished program, which I think is not only an amazing way to make these watches even more affordable, but also I just appreciate anytime a brand has their kind of like own in-house pre-owned program, kind of like a Patagonia worn wear or things of that nature. I think it's just a great way to reduce waste and also give customers an even more accessible price point for certain goods. So I actually purchased this for, I think it was $179 pre-owned on the Vaer website, just directly through their pre-owned program. And I think for 179 bucks, it was a total steal. It feels so premium. This specific one is a dive watch. The DS4 is kind of modeled after your kind of the classic, like a Rolex Submariner. It's probably the easiest touch point, but it's just a very classic looking dive watch that feels so good on the wrist, and it has such a like beautiful, elegant ruggedness to it that I just think is awesome. Dive watches are some of my favorites to wear and to use, and I'm like still kind of like blown away by the fact that they even have watches like this available at the prices that they do. They're beautiful. They feel great. And I don't know, it's like having like a luxury item that doesn't actually cost a luxury price point. And that, I just think that's really cool. And anytime I find a brand that's doing stuff like this, I just think it's worth highlighting, because I just really appreciate that, because, like I said, I don't have a very expensive watch collection. I can't bring myself to spend like a crazy amount of money on a watch. I just can't justify it. So to be able to feel like I've got a little bit of like everyday luxury on my wrist without actually having to pay crazy prices for that is a really special thing. And I also appreciate that too. I don't think this watch in particular fits this criteria, but Vaer does also have a lot of USA assembled watches, which I believe constitutes actually like crafting the watch in the US with imported materials. There's kind of some stipulations around, USA made versus USA assembled. And so they specifically mentioned that they are USA assembled. But again, that's just, creating more jobs in the US economy, especially in the watch world. I think that's a little bit rare. So I across the board, there's like so many values and things that I appreciate about Vaer. And this one, I think, really just surprised me with how nice it actually was. When I took it out of the box, I was just shocked that I was able to get it for the price that I did. So if $300 is kind of a little bit too much for a watch, I would say definitely look at Vaer's pre-owned site, because you can find some really good deals on there, and maybe treat yourself to something that at retail is a little bit more expensive, but actually becomes more affordable just because of that pre-owned nature. So that is the Vaer DS4, and definitely the watch that I am wearing the most these days, I would say, of all the watches that I have in my little collection. That's about it. Those are the 3 watches I wanted to talk about today. I think each of them represent different styles and price points, like I've already mentioned many times. And I think hopefully within those 3, there's something for everyone there. I really just love watches so much. I think they're just such a cool, storied, historied piece of jewelry that just really has an incredible amount of function in a timeless way. And I would love to chat about watches more on this channel going forward. So if there's any questions that you have about them, or specific things that you want to learn or see about them, I just really like talking about the kind of analog things and products and goods that I have been recently. And I'd love to just kind of get your input on what more things like that you'd like to see on the channel going forward. So thanks again for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and I will see you in the next video.